Welcome to the Greatness Garage Podcast, the place where small businesses get big answers. I'm your host, Brad Borkhuis, founder of Epitome Coaching and Consulting, and this is the Greatness Garage. Welcome, everyone, back to the Greatness Garage. We are so excited to have you all again. I am blessed to have Dr. Ken Moger here. He has been in the game and really understand the healing value of chiropractic for so long. Ken, thank you for joining us today.
It's an honor. It was great that you reached out. We haven't spent time together for many years, and so I'm, I see your stuff, but now to be able to talk directly with you, I love it. It's awesome. Thank you.
I love it. Well, would you take 90 seconds and tell the Greatness Garage about yourself?
Gosh, what can I say? I've been a doctor of chiropractic since 1993. I did physical therapy for a few years before that. But probably the key things in my life is, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a husband, and I'm a father, and soon to be grandfather, by the way. We just found out
the good times.
Our son and his beautiful wife, we call her Rachel B. So I'm married to Rachel A. We've been married for a little over 27 years. And my son married Rachel B. So it's Rachel Ann and Rachel Beth. So they're already plotting and scheming some way to like swap IDs or something crazy like that, just to mess with people. But anyway, so yeah, we've got my wife and I. We have 3 beautiful children. They're all strong in their faith in the Lord. 2 are married. One is getting pretty serious, so we'll see where that goes. Blessed, my daughter-in-law, my son-in-law, and my perhaps future son-in-law. Wonderful human beings. My kids all made great choices based on character traits and those types of things. So I just really couldn't be more happy in those respects. Business, I'm at the tail end of business, right? I'm at that age where we're looking at developing exit plans over the next few years. Just turned 60 about a month or so ago, and so it's those things of like, okay, what's the next phase? What are we doing next? And maybe we'll get into a little of that. We're at a place in our marriage too that being a small business owner, the whole family owns the business, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. And so, particularly my wife, Rachel, and, there a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into being a small business owner, unique challenges in a marriage because of that, and unique parenting challenges in that light. But we're looking at, maybe the next phase is, what does she want to do? Yeah. How can I best support her? Yeah. And make her wildest dreams come true. So, that's kind of where we're sitting right now. And, as we're looking at shifting on business, that also puts me in a place where I'm having to think a lot more about legacy. How can I help whoever takes over the practice be as successful as possible, not just financially, but personally and spiritually and socially successful, hopefully by not making the same bonehead mistakes I made.
Right. That's why we're here, right?
Things that we found work good.
Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Well, and it's just, in that journey that you have, and I think everybody, may we all be blessed to have a similar journey that allows us the fruitfulness that comes through that, to be able to see the cycle complete in a way that is intentional. That, like it says, you never know exactly where it's going, but you got to be able to put some intention to it and create something and do something special in the world. So pretty cool. So awesome. So we're going to jump right in. The first segment is, I wish I would have. I wish I would have done. I wish I would have not have done. I wish I would have done more of. I wish I would have done less of. And really just gives you a chance to reflect and share some nuggets for everyone to understand, here's what's under the lesson. Here's what's under the example. So Dr. Ken, take it away.
Gotcha. I mean, there's a whole laundry list. Obviously, when you go through life, it's you don't remember the camping trips that went perfect. right? You
That's
tell the
true. Yeah.
stories of the camping trip that rained solid for 3 days, or the car broke down in the mud, or whatever. Like you always remember those. We were talking earlier about scuba diving, and all my best scuba diving stories are like mishaps and like near misses, or like
Yep.
the great white shark that was 15 feet away or something like that. It's not the ones that went really perfect and smooth.
Yep.
So when we say I wish I would have, or would not have, I want to make sure that people listening understand that it's all within a context.
Yeah.
And usually it means I wish I would have known this so I could have done that better,
Yep.
or I could have avoided an obvious pitfall. But I think probably the biggest thing for me that was a great challenge, and for my family, was we bought an existing practice, and it was an 80s practice. And for those of in your audience that don't know this about chiropractic, a lot of people have been around for a while. We call those the Mercedes
80s,
80s,
80s. Yeah.
right? And it was insurance was just starting to really cover chiropractic, and so there wasn't a whole lot of guide rails around how to use it.
Yep.
Obviously, trying to put natural healing of any sort into a primarily pharmaceutically driven healthcare delivery service system, you're not going to have I won't even say animosity, just confusion. People
Good.
don't
Well
understand
said.
it. We're coming at it from a totally different way. So it was a very successful practice on paper, because they were, when I bought it in 95, that era was ending. Insurance was really
Hmm.
becoming
Wow.
restrictive. A lot of your younger audience may not remember or be aware of the fact that, like, insurance, the whole concept of a health maintenance organization didn't exist, right? It was,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
out here in California, the only one was Kaiser Permanente. And my mother, being an emergency room director, for a different hospital system, they would totally dog on Kaiser.
Hmm.
It was like the low budget healthcare delivery service, kind of quasi socialist medical system that didn't
Yep.
attract the best people. It was mostly like foreign doctors, new doctors, things like that. And now, of course, it's not true now. That's not true now.
Correct.
But at the time, and
Hmm.
so HMOs were coming in, a lot of things were being restricted. And what I wish I would have known then was done a little better assessment of industry
Hmm.
assessment, and being able to know when you're making those kind of investments, because mind you, this was 95. It was just 1.2, 1.3 million dollar nut. And and which for me at 29 years old, 30 years old, I was like, hey, check this out. Like, my signature is worth $1.3 million.
Yeah.
Like some idiot. I
Yeah.
had nothing. Like, I had nothing, right? And it's like they're willing to take a risk on me for 1.3
Yeah.
million
Yeah.
dollars. Fools.
I've
But
made it.
but I was like, I was cocky. I was sure of
Yeah.
it. I was confident in my knowledge and my skill set and what have you. What I was missing was all those little subtleties of business ownership. And we went into it. The industry was changing rather dramatically. It probably would have been evaluated differently had I just waited two
Hmm.
more years or 3 more years,
Oh, yeah.
because the trending was changing.
Already happening. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, like, to give your audience just an odd example, a lot of doctors went out on stress leave, and they had disability coverage, and they went out on stress leave because all the economy changed so radically, and so they
Wow.
were losing their practices and getting divorces,
Hmm.
all this stuff. And so I couldn't even get disability insurance, because it went from like AA
Yep.
rated paper to like C rated paper. So it was like
Wow.
I would have had to got my disability insurance through like Lloyd's of London or something crazy, or they covered like less than my electric bill. It was
Right.
like some ridiculous type of coverage. So
Wow.
I think in retrospect, that snowballed into a whole lot of other problems.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but the reality of it is, the reality of it is, if I really pinned it down now in retrospect, those were just circumstances. Was I was lacking a lot of personal development issues, divorced
Yep.
family, abusive stepfather, these different types of things. I had a lot of insecurity issues, abandonment issues, those kind of things. And that drove me into surrounding myself with people that, that just said, just work harder, nose to the
Yep.
grindstone, And then once you agreed to a deal, that you stuck with it, you just saw it all the way through because
Yep.
your name meant
Yep.
something. And while I think you were mentioning earlier, I think on the surface, those are profound and necessary and key ingredients. They're not the whole story.
No.
And so as you go through life, and particularly business, just becomes a catalyst for life, right? And it really amplifies anything you can think of, in life. That if you're a business owner, those are going to be amplified. Like
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
that is. Marital problems are going to get amplified if you're in a marriage.
Yep.
Insecurity issues are going to get amplified when you're a business owner,
Yep. That's the
because you
pressure,
really
right?
don't have
Yep.
anywhere to hide, right? I mean,
No, exactly.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so I think if I'm not being too, circular on this, I think in a nutshell, if I were to put a pin in it, it's just knowing your industry and knowing yourself. Like, be
Yeah.
honest, be
Yeah.
brutally honest with that, and
I
ask
think,
for other people's insight.
yep. And you know what, and you say that so well because it is something that shows up so difficult, and to really be brutally honest, not just, and to have, you have such aspirations, you have such hope, your entire dreams and vision is in front of you, and now you want me to turd under this entire industry, you want me to do it to this business, you want me to do it to all this stuff, like, oh, it almost feels disingenuous. But to open those eyes as wide as that is, it's interesting you're saying this about that, the Mercedes 80s, and I remember hearing that as they were coming down out of it, right? I'm actually cautioning a lot of people that are buying businesses right now that are using metrics and valuations based off of the COVID bump. A lot of business, unfortunately, not chiropractic in the early part, but a lot of businesses experienced that COVID bump, and they all of a sudden really doing well. And now they have valuations that say they're up here, when if you look pre-COVID, they were doing nothing like that. And if you don't make for that adjustment and go really, really serious about it, you're gonna be hurting for that. So go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, perhaps piggyback on that. I mean, the reality is, so many things in business can literally change with the
Mhm.
stroke of a legislative pen.
Yeah.
And that, some people even got, some of their stimulus money as business owners, and we can
Yeah.
argue whether that was rightfully a good thing or not. But and that could cause problems with your valuation issues, because it's going to make a difference on your P&Ls. It's going to make a difference on your Schedule Ones. It's going to make some difference. But also, excuse me, also a lot of businesses closed during that time, and
Yeah.
it was absolutely, there was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
Also, the culture changed, right?
Mm.
So
Well
for
said.
businesses that are dependent upon employees, it
Yeah.
changed an attitude about work ethic and what have you.
Hmm.
And I don't, once again, I mean, I think I've gotten to an age where I'm judging less and just
Yeah.
kind of saying, it just is what it is.
It's
But it
different, right?
definitely changed. It
Yep.
definitely
Yep.
changed. And so if you haven't, some of those things, there's no way you're going to be able to see, right? It just
Yeah.
is what it is. But however, there were certain things that the clues were there and that we need to be aware of. And I think that a lot of business owners, certainly myself, going into it, it's like going in, maybe dating and then marriage. We're not
Yeah.
really being, the word you used earlier was intentional. And I like that
Yeah.
word. We weren't really being intentional. And I had somebody once say to me that, like, the difference between a contract and an agreement is,
Mm.
agreements are based on how you're hoping things will go.
Yep. Yep.
And a contract is a
For
is a
when they don't.
prenuptial agreement, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this is how when it's time to exit, whether
yeah.
that's death, whether that's dismemberment, whether that's irreconcilable differences, whatever that might be, that this is how we're deciding to end these
Yeah,
agreements. And
yeah.
you need to be intentional about that. Now, I don't know, it kind of gets weird into marriage, but certainly that's what we're doing. And I think a lot of people make that mistake when they're looking at businesses, is they're looking at their contracts as agreements.
Well
And they're
said.
only agreements on how you're going to exit. That's really, I think, a key point. Um, other businesses might have this as well, but certainly, like as physicians, you have things like non-competition agreements and things like
Yeah,
that. But the reality is, they don't hold up well in court, because
no,
customers have a right to go wherever they want, and
yeah,
people have a right to work wherever they want. So,
yeah.
those are the realities of it all.
I,
So,
I
yeah.
I think everybody hearing that, understanding contracts versus agreements and treating contracts as agreements, because that's the thing they try to. It's funny, I get to people try to shove stuff into contracts, like, oh, we want it, like, well, wait a second, this is for, like you said, this is if it goes all wrong, and they say, is this contract good enough? If you expect it to go wrong, I'd make it really, really, really strong. If you don't, then there's things that you do and protect yourself. But again, a lot of times I have found that when an agreement breaks down, that which causes the breakdown or the stuff a lot of times isn't in the contract. It was something that we didn't think about, and all of a sudden and that's the difficult thing with contracts. You put a lot of money into creating them, and they're hopeful guesses, and they that you get the right things and you cover the right things. Sometimes they pay off wonderfully. Sometimes they're just paper that makes you feel a little better at night, and so that's amazing. I love that. I love that, treating agreements as contracts. Be careful of that. That's wonderful. So in looking at that, I really enjoyed how you kind of went through that process of acknowledging, and this is for everyone else. Something he said at the end of it came right back to what he was just saying. Is at the end of his initial kind of piece of this was that he wished he talked to other, more older business owners, stuff like that too, and for the exact same reason that he said, I don't know if I could have seen it, because as you ask people, the things, and this is where I'm in this blessed seat, right? Where I get to say, hey, what would you have done differently? Or what would you have done? What are the things? All these little nuggets go into our mental library. And when we see that the industry is, that kind of sixth sense that's showing up, the spidey senses, that the industry is changing, you're able to be ahead of that curve because of people like Dr. Ken that have this wisdom, that they've been through it and they saw it, and here's the things that they wish they would have done, or they learned a lesson from this. And so you going in, and the fact that if you listen to him and go in and ask extra questions about the industry, you're going to be that much farther ahead. So thank you. That was pretty cool, Dr. Ken.
Well, and I think that, I would say that was perhaps another misjudgment that I had made along my path, I always had coaches. I always tried to get additional advice, and a large part of that is I just didn't have really any of that growing up. So I learned really early.
Yeah.
I can't even remember who it was, but I was probably like 17 or 18, turned me on to Zig Ziglar,
Oh, very
and I was
cool.
like a
Yeah.
Zig Ziglar junkie, I was a Zig Ziglar junkie. And then when I was doing physical therapy, one of my patients had, in her youth, dated Jim Rohn. And
Oh,
Jim Rohn
okay.
was from Sonoma County, just down the road from me. And
Oh,
so she goes, oh no, we're still good friends. And so I got to meet Jim Rohn, and it was like I kind of, these people became, in a weird way, like my Gandalfs,
yep.
and
Yep.
but I still had, look, the reality is, at least for me, I had so much baggage to get through that gave me insight. Didn't mean I applied it super good,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
it definitely gave me something to fall back on and say, hey, there are pieces. And I think I would like to emphasize that is, like, when you're getting advice from other people, insight. Let's not say advice. If you want advice, ask for advice. But if you're wanting insights, then don't filter it.
Yeah.
Just take it as an
As it
insight.
is. Yeah.
However, don't don't put the responsibility on them that they're giving you advice. They're
Yeah.
just giving you insight.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
they say, eat the meat, spit out the bones. If it works for you,
That's great.
use
Yeah.
it. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
throw it away. But I think it's naive to not want to get insights from other people. And I'd made some mistakes where I even hired people, like contract lawyers and stuff like this, that I soon realized that everybody in some level is out for themselves.
Sure.
And they
Yeah.
weren't necessarily having my best interests in heart. And
Yeah.
I don't know that the vast majority of them were maliciously that way. You
Right.
know, I
Yeah.
just think the reality is I was expecting them to kind of be like my dad or something and give me some great advice, watch out for this.
Yeah.
And of course that's not what you're paying them to do. So,
Yeah. They
they
have
can
conflict
try
aspirations.
to
Yeah.
steer you. Sometimes they're reading their client and saying, and
Yeah.
they're not necessarily like looking at the situation if as if they were doing it themselves. How might they filter through it?
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. And then know what you're getting. I don't know if this is true for other professions, but certainly for chiropractic, some of the things that were called practice management
Mm-hmm.
programs were
Mm-hmm.
not really practice management programs.
Yeah.
Really they were sales communication programs.
Yeah.
And I know that when people think of healthcare, that perhaps that's a little off-putting, but everything's sales. Like
Yeah.
everything is sales. Because
Yeah.
really sales, when it's done to its best extent, is if what you want is what you need, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
provide a good or service that will help you attain that, then that's my job, is to try to show you the strengths of my product or
Yeah.
service, so that and how it might fit your goals. But a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
And so in healthcare, and they don't necessarily realize, like for, if you're a medical doctor, you've got a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry that does a lot of marketing for you. You got
Mm-hmm.
lobbyists that are putting pressure on politicians to change policies that might force people to buy your product or
Yeah.
not use the competitor's product or service, as the case may be, or entice it through certain types of coverage and what have you. And so, for a lot of young doctors and their support staff, they have to learn how to be all of that,
Right.
right? How
Yeah.
to be a
It's
marketing department, how to be a sales force, how to be an HR director, how to be, like you have to wear so many different hats.
yeah.
And you're thinking, I'm just going to put up my shingle and do my
Right.
magic, and the masses will come to me. They'll get great results, so they're going to tell everyone to come to
Did you
me.
know
And
I'm a practitioner? Didn't you know? Yeah. Right.
yeah, right. Which is like, couldn't be further from the truth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the level of naivete that we go into these things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, definitely, watching shows like this, getting insights,
Yeah.
like, it's so worth it. Like,
Yeah.
just get it, like, don't be an island.
And like you said, let those nuggets flow in, and the good Lord will guide you which ones to grab as they come by.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, and
Well,
some
that
of
was.
them circle back, right? Some of them circle
Mhm.
back. So you got to remember, life is a long book.
Yeah.
And a character that was introduced in chapter 2 that you're going, what the heck was that all about, comes back in chapter 9, and it all makes sense. And
Yeah.
so, you just got to remember, life's a long book, and
Yeah.
and don't just throw stuff away if it's not
Yeah.
useful now. It happened. If it happened once, it could
Yeah.
happen again. And it's, not to overquote Donald Rumsfeld, but it's the famous, there's those things we know, there's the
Yeah.
things we don't know,
Don't know.
there's the things we know, and the things
Don't
we know we don't know, and there's those things we don't know we know,
know.
and it's those things that we don't know that we don't know. That's the problem. That's what
Yeah.
all the problems come from.
Yeah.
And so just being aware, being intentional, I think just have your radar on, and you're going to have the better odds of being
Yeah.
able to come up with contingencies. So,
Oh. That was so good. Thank you. So that just and just so complete and so well that gave us the picture of where that came from. So I love it. So the next segment we have is it's one of my favorite. It's funny. The stories are amazing, and I know yours is going to be the same. And so you aren't gonna believe this, Dr. Ken. Take this one away. I can't wait to hear.
Well, I think probably the most profound one, right? Because a lot of docs, especially, and a lot of small business owners in general, is that they're lone rangers, you know. To some degree, they're narcissistic sociopaths. I mean,
Sure.
it's like you kind of have to be that.
There's elements.
People
Absolutely.
say that
Yep.
about Donald Trump, whatever you might think of him, but like you kind of have to be. You kind of have to
Yep.
already think that your ideas are worth pursuing, are worth putting to the top or near the top of the pile, and you got
Yep.
to have that, rhino skin and to push through. And those are the tough ones because if you choose to get married, you choose to have children, you choose to have intimate relationships with friends or family, they're going to get drugged through that with you to
Yep.
some degree. So with
Yep.
that little framework,
Context. Yep.
one of the things that I had not really prepared for was about just a little over 7 years ago. I'm riding my motorcycle to work. It's 6 a.m. It's a beautiful summer day. I got Tom Petty playing on the stereo. We've got tickets to go see him, of course, and then he
Oh.
passed away before I got to use the tickets. They did give me my money back, but some kid decides at the last minute to turn left across the WO line and hit me head on at about 60 miles an hour.
Oh.
And so I woke up about 20 yards down the road on the side of the road, and everything changed in that moment. I
Mhm.
couldn't. My wife. We joked about like men will never know what it's like for a woman to give birth, and I'm like, I took a steel gas tank to my crotch at 60 miles an hour, and she goes, okay, maybe you know what it feels like.
You're
And I
getting
go, no,
close.
actually, a couple days after your birth, it didn't hurt as bad. Mine still hurt.
Might still.
Mine still hurt. So what's the joke? What's worse, giving birth or getting kicked in the balls? It's
Yep.
easy. It's like it's getting kicked in the balls is worse. Like women will have a baby, and a few months later they'll think about having another baby. Guy
Yep.
gets kicked in the nuts, he never
Yeah.
wants to get kicked in the nuts again. You know what I'm saying? Ever again. Like he could go through the whole rest of his life never having that
Yeah.
happen. But so I couldn't walk for about 5 months. I couldn't walk.
Oh.
I had to get a couple of surgeries on my leg to put it back together, and just so that you people out there knows, as much as I'm into natural health, I didn't ask them to rub lavender oil on it.
You're right.
Demerol, let's go
You
on
would
there.
go.
Wake
Yep.
me up when it's over. But that was a real humbling experience. I
I bet.
I went from reading probably 2 to 4 technical books. I don't read fiction, just technical books a month. And, I've always been blessed with really good comprehension and retention. I lost all my retention. So I could read it, understand it totally what I was reading, and then close the book, and I couldn't tell you what I read.
Wow.
And my vision got messed up from it, a number of things. So that there was, like I say, couldn't walk, had to have my teenage kids empty my bedpan.
Mm.
I couldn't get up and down the stairs. I couldn't get in and out of the bathtub. I just couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I would get on a wheelchair. We rolled out on my deck, hooked a garden hose up to the garage sink, and I literally took showers on the deck with a garden hose,
Yeah.
for probably 2 months.
Wow.
So now during this time, of course, when you're a chiropractor, like if I often say this, and I hope I don't offend anybody, it doesn't take any skill to be a medical doctor. It takes
Mhm.
a tremendous amount of knowledge,
Yep. Yep.
but it doesn't really take skill. Like Stephen Hawkins could have been an MD,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
So as a chiropractor, I'd like to believe the opposite isn't true, that it doesn't take any knowledge, just a lot of skill. But it definitely takes skill. And
Yep.
so and so I'm not only was I a business owner, but I was the product.
Right. Yep.
And
Yep.
so now all of a sudden my product line stopped.
Yep. Yep.
And so we were in a pressure to have to hire associates. I had to hire 2 associates just to cover 2/3 of the practice that I was seeing by myself.
Wow.
And of course, their heart's not fully into it. It's not their baby. They're just
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
going through the motions. You'd like to believe that they're still trying to be good doctors.
Hmm.
Um, they were newer. They didn't have, at that point in my career, I probably had, 750,000 patient visits under my belt. So I
Wow.
had a lot of
Yep.
street savvy, and and they were lacking that. They're quality human beings. They were
Yep.
good people, but the finances of the business took such a profound hit. We almost lost everything.
Oh, I bet.
So
Oh.
luckily, I had done somebody that Rick Sapio, who's
Oh
recently
yeah.
passed away. He and Pat Gentempo had done the business finishing school, and going
Yep.
through that, we got introduced to like Garrett Gunderson, and we
Yep.
did a lot of things to set ourselves up. And so
Yep.
we had things that we could borrow from. We had different types of insurances and what have you, and we were able to survive that.
Well,
Right?
you mentioned Rick Sapio. When you said that the motorcycle, I go, that's your torpedo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He always used to say a torpedo to the side of the, yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And
Mm.
it's interesting because people would say things like unnecessary risks. I would, when it, like, not to well, okay, let's just be honest. I'm trying to justify my addiction to motorcycles, but people are like, better. Why are you riding these death traps? And I said, look, there was nothing wrong with my motorcycle.
Yeah.
I used to race motorcycles. There's nothing wrong with what I was doing. I was riding. I was doing the speed limit. I was riding safe.
Yeah.
Some idiot, you know, turned, like, literally hit me head on, like he meant
Yeah.
to do it. Um,
God.
and of course, he was uninsured and all those different things. So we had to sue our own insurance company. So just for those of you who aren't aware, even with your umbrella policies, you sign a binding arbitration agreement for uninsured motorists.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's no jury.
Yeah.
So it ultimately comes
Oh.
down to one person's opinion as to,
Hmm.
what your settlement's going to be. And so they left it just below the threshold, so my umbrella policy didn't even kick in.
Oh.
So we actually ended up losing about 300 grand on that. Now, luckily, we had the resources, but it drained
Right.
everything.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like, we didn't lose everything, but all of our retirement fund, all that was all gone
All your
to
safety. Yeah. Yeah.
be able to keep the bones. All right. So now, what did we learn from that? What good came from it? Well, I think a number of things. It humbled me
Yeah.
and
I
made
bet.
me realize how often I had said, "This is what I have done."
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
efforts. This was my doing, and I realized how much I actually depended on everybody else. So
Oh.
that was a blessing that came from that. My wife was incredible through that whole thing.
I
Like,
bet.
and my kids and everybody just really stepped up to the plate. And I was also very pleased. I most of my practice
Hmm.
waited for me to come back. So, so there was a lot there. But it definitely shifted my attitude about that whole grind it and, drive it till the wheels
Yeah.
fall off. It's now I'm like, hey, today could be your very last,
Yeah.
as Marcus Aurelius said, right? Momentus mori,
Oh,
like, got
yeah.
to remember, we all die, things happen.
Hmm.
And there are things worse than death. My wife would have cashed out probably a lot better if I would have just died, but, but, yeah. So anyway, I think that was a huge, like, I can't believe this. So always trying to remind people, like, don't cut your corners. Make
Yeah.
sure you have that battleship principle in place. Make
Yeah.
sure you
Yeah.
have your key man insurances. Make sure you do these things. Do not, if you can't afford to buy your kids pads and helmet this year because, to play football, you'll do it next year. They don't get to play football.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you can't afford to do all these different things, then I would suggest to you that you probably aren't ready to open a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're
Yeah.
not you're not taking the risk. Now, look, if you're a lone ranger, you're totally by yourself. You're not married. You don't have a significant other. You don't have people that are dependent upon you. You're not running a business where you have a lot of employees whose lives are also dependent upon you. What have you? You know, do
Yeah.
whatever you want. Run the risk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but as you add other factors in, I think you do need to uh, take some time and have a strategy to protect yourself, because you never know when lightning is going to hit. And
Yeah.
on the
Absolutely.
motorcycle thing, I had to tell patients, I'm like, you do realize that more people get hit by cars riding bicycles than motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Statistically, more
Yep.
people get hit jogging by a
Yep.
car
Yep.
than get hit by a car on a motorcycle.
Yep.
So the reality, now you could say there's more people doing it, but nobody ever
Sure.
says, hey Brad, you gonna stop riding bicycles?
Right.
You
Right.
never think of death traps, man.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you stop jogging. You know, you got to be
And,
careful.
and,
So,
and you look
so
at
it
it,
could be
yeah.
anything.
Well, and not only that too, when you look at it, I think what you said though too is so important is it's called risk assessment. You got to do the full assessment.
Yeah,
And you can't just sit there and going, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." No, don't oh yeah, yeah. Really do the work, do the deep work and understand. And that goes with understanding the risk of financial decisions, of relationships that you get into, personal, as well as business. Understand like the do the work. And I think that's kind of that message that as you prepare yourself, the better you prepare yourself, the better you are prepared for success, right? Like the better
yeah.
you kind of sit there and go, I see what's going on here. Um, but yeah, it's just what I love, and I love how you are able to take from that, and kudos to you. Just let me recognize you for that. The ability to take the recognition that I've actually got a blessing here to understand and learn to appreciate how much everyone really means to me and how much they've done and for me to be able to do what I do, to have the practice I have and all that stuff. And but it's interesting there's this one it was like a TikTok short or maybe a Facebook or something like that I saw one time that said she is a woman speaking. She said, I think our job is to fail, is to continue to lose so that we can grow in our empathy to connect with and understand what it means to lose and the heart that expands through life as we continue to go through our to our death. And it was like this beautiful way of understanding that in loss, like for example, my daughter when she got diagnosed with diabetes with type 1, I never would have been able to connect with other people on that until I experienced that and sat in that and sat in the ups and downs and trying to figure out all of a sudden like this it all changes and scrambling and looking through all the wonderful functional medicine, all the relationships that I have, trying to find whatever we can. You wouldn't have that empathy to be able to have it until you had it all taken from you, all this bravado and I can do it's this taken away from you. Can you truly appreciate that lens gets just that veil gets kind of ripped away and you would see it all. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a place in our culture where where we need a reassessment of what empathy is,
yeah,
you know, and
that's
we
it.
need, I won't sit here and profess that I have this answered, but it seems to me that being able to look at somebody and say, well, I guess just say those words, it seems to me
Hmm.
that these are possibilities, or have you considered this,
Yep.
versus this, like, well, you should do this or you ought to do that, what have you, because or we go too far the other way, which is we empathize to the point where we're actually creating an enabling situation.
Correct. Yeah.
And that,
Well said.
so I
And
think,
that's probably more of what we're seeing, in the social side and stuff like that right now is probably more of that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there does seem to be signs that we've kind of taken that to its nth degree, and
The
they're starting,
pendulum has swung a little too far. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then we're starting to pull back on it a little bit. But yeah, I think the biggest one too. I think also, I know this is particularly your protocols and program is primarily for entrepreneurs.
Yep.
But I think also, in the phases of our lives or stages of our lives or moments in our lives where we are part of a team, and perhaps not, we're the colonel, not the general, or
Yeah.
we're the employee or what have you, that we also need to have a little empathy the other way, that there's a lot of these things that the general population just doesn't know.
Yep.
Like, they just don't
Yep.
know. Like, I'm not
Yep.
trying to say, woe is me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean,
Yep.
I probably make a lousy employee.
I agree. I agree.
but,
Yep.
uh, but, a lot of people just don't realize the level of the number of plates you have to spin
Yep.
and the number of
Yep.
hats you have to wear. And you have to at least be informed on virtually every aspect of your business. It doesn't mean you're the
Yep.
expert at it, but
Yep.
you have to be informed enough that you can have a rational conversation with the people that you put in charge of those aspects of your business.
Yep. Yep.
And I think you see the same thing in a marriage, right? I mean, you see the same thing certainly now. You got kiddos.
Yep.
It's conversations where you're like, the kid, you go in and give one of your kids a lecture or something, you come out and your spouse might go, how'd that go? And you go, I don't know yet. Let's find out. It's kind of like, we're winging
Yep.
it. Like, but you can have some level of informed conversation about it, and try to get to that place where there's a little more humility in it. And I think that's an interesting part of the same mechanism, that we have empathy and humility tend to go together.
Yep.
Uh,
I agree with you. Yep.
on some level, they're not
Yeah,
the
it,
same.
it, it bridges that connected ability, right? For you to really connect with them, understand that oh, that's what it might be like,
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. So
yeah.
oh well, that's awesome. So great story. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for you to go through it again. I remember years ago when I saw that had happened, and I remember it was rough. So the final segment that we want to step into is intentional aligned intentional language. And so, what is it? Maybe a quote, maybe a mantra, maybe a way of using words that you use that's helped you kind of along the way.
Well, I think, when you had mentioned that you're going to ask me that, it once again, I feel it's kind of weird for me. I'm also probably about as fundamentalist Christian, quasi Christian nationalist as you can get. So, so that's a tricky one, because it's
Yeah.
like, I don't like, that's not a frame. Like, that's my being.
Hmm.
So, as a big part of being an entrepreneur, I don't know that I really had a concept of wanting to be an entrepreneur growing up.
Yeah.
As I play the tapes back, I was on swim team. Like, there's no team in swim team, right?
Yep.
That
I
I
know.
was on the wrestling team. There's nobody else is on the mat with you.
Right. Exactly.
I was on the
Yep.
dive team. Nobody's going off high dive with you. I raced motorcycles. Nobody else is on the bike.
Interesting.
I get there's a team part component to it. But at the
Right.
end of the day, I was always attracted to that type of activity, things that
Yeah.
I didn't have to be reliant too heavily on other people. And so I lived and died by my own performance. And even
Yep.
even my jobs growing up, most of my jobs that I ever had pre, going to college were commission-based jobs.
Interesting.
I don't like wages.
Yep.
I
Yep.
remember actually when I got hired as a PT assistant, the doctor says, "You never asked me what the job pays," and I said, "Well, I'm not really interested in what the job pays. What I'm interested in is how much I can earn."
There you go.
And he went, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I go, "Look, I'm not naive. Your name's on the door. If I want to drive a Mercedes, I got to put two
Yep.
in your garage first. I
Yep.
get that." And he looked at me and he kind of half smiled. I go, "Look, all I'm wondering is it possible for me to
To get
earn a
my own
Mercedes?
Mercedes. Yep. Yep.
Is
Yep.
that possible?" And I think, so I tried to raise my kids with that concept. But when I got turned on to chiropractic, it shifted for me. It became something that had a greater purpose. And there was an old doctor chiropractic named Joe Felicia, and he would say, find a purpose greater than self and serve that purpose with passion.
Ooh.
And I think, one of the things that's hard for me in this generation gap right now, Brad, is that younger people, like when I was a kid, somebody say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you might say, hey, I want to be a famous baseball player. I want to be a famous football player. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
a world-renowned, neurosurgeon or something. Like your fame, your fame was based on doing something well.
Yeah.
And now I'm meeting young people, and they're just like, yeah, I want to be famous. I want to be an
Oh, yeah.
influencer. And I'm like, yeah, but who are you influencing, and what are you influencing them
Yeah.
about? Like, what's your
Yeah.
platform? Whatever. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just want to be famous. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying there aren't Cinderella stories where somebody stumbles across, the pet rock and becomes a millionaire.
Sure. Yeah.
There's always unicorn stories. I live up here in Northern California. I've heard thousands of stories about Bigfoot sightings. I just personally have never seen Sasquatch. I'm not
Yeah.
saying Sasquatch ain't out there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I've
That's been my
personally.
experience. Yeah.
So, there's these miracle stories, but I think at the end of the day, whatever you're going to do, do it, like be all chips in on it,
Yeah.
like really make it. And so for me, the chiropractic lifestyle it's so much more than what I do. It's like a way of
Who I
looking
am.
at life, and it
Yeah.
dovetails with my Christian faith.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea of aligned language, like all of it aligns for me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
when in First Corinthians, where it says, do you not know that your body is the temple seat of the Holy Spirit, which was given unto you, that it is not your own, that you were
Yeah.
bought at a price, and that
Yeah.
you need to honor God with your body and your spirit, which are His, right? They're His. And
Yeah.
so, like, I don't have a right to turn my body into a nightclub.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have a right to do that. I don't
Yeah.
have a right to litter and pollute His perfect creative world. Like
Yeah.
it was such a masterpiece that God said, I'm going to take the day off. Like, I've outdone even myself. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
freaking awesome. And
Yeah.
so, scuba divers, we see it every time we dive, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's the amazing depth of splendor that
Yeah.
this natural world is. And I really, I have a lot of concerns about where our culture is going with defaulting all of our deeper thoughts to AI, to
Mm-hmm.
enhancing our body with artificial means and what have you. Like, at some point, when are we no longer human?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, so for me, those things are a driving force in what I do.
Yeah.
They're a driving force in how we raised our kids. We have a steam room and a hot tub, and so we'd have steam room philosophy and hot tub theology, and it was like anything was
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. Yep.
Kids could ask me anything. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's find out together.
Yeah.
And so, my daughter was such a freak. Our eldest, in eighth grade, she borrowed one of her teachers' systemic theology book, like for summer reading. You
Right.
know,
Just
so
gonna
it's like,
brush
look,
up a
we're
little.
going to
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
in this God thing. We're going all chips in.
Yeah.
Like, we're going all
That's
chips
cool.
in, right?
That's
And so if we're going to do this natural health thing, we're going all chips in,
yeah.
right? We're doing this marriage thing. My son, when they were doing their pre-marriage counseling, he goes, I've gone through the book 5 times, Dad. Like it's just like, if you're going to do it,
All chips
go
in.
all chips in. So I would say that that's a huge part. Most people, what they really want is they want the wealth or they want the
Yeah.
fame,
Yeah.
right? But as the old saying goes, it's not the destination, it's who you become in the journey.
Yeah.
And so if you can pick something that ticks more boxes, and isn't out of alignment with your other values and
Please.
virtues.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's a really good thing for people to regularly do, just in general, is
Yeah.
actually just go on to Google, a list of virtues and values.
Yep. Yeah.
and they're just one word things, and all of them are valuable, or they wouldn't be called values.
Right.
But you
Yep.
may have a totally different top 5 list than mine. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's fine, because they're all valuable,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
you can't do all of them at once. So this is the issue too, is like your values and your ethics, as they say, morality is revealed, right?
Yeah.
Morality is
Yep.
absolute truths. They're
Yep.
revealed through, and for my religion, the Holy Spirit, right? They're revealed over generations through other people, and they've been written down and stood the test of time, and those types of things. So those are there. But what do you do when they might conflict? What do
Right.
they do when they're like, where there's that point where which one goes first,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because there's times like that. And
Absolutely.
so that's where really knowing your own value hierarchy, and being open and honest with your team, with your clients, with your
Yep.
spouse about that. Like those, you should be able to wear those on your sleeve, right?
Yep.
They should be
Exactly.
right out there in the front.
They're a badge of
And
honor. They're who your organization is. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
if you can really make that an intentional exercise for yourself, and do it regularly, maybe
Yep.
quarterly,
Yep.
maybe at least annually, because it does change. Look, it
Hmm.
changes
Hmm.
when your kids are little. You have a different value hierarchy structure than when you were single and didn't have kids.
Yep.
And then when
Absolutely.
they become teenagers, it changes again. And then when they move out, they're starting there, it changes again. Like
Yep.
there's seasons of life where your value it's not that your values change necessarily, but your
No,
hierarchy
that
changes.
priority, the way they rank
Correct.
absolutely. Yep. Yep.
So that's actually one of the questions we ask patient or employees in the interview process. Is I say, we have which is more important, this, that. Are you a morning glory or a night owl? Those kind of
Yep.
questions, right? And one of them that I added to the list is are you at a stage of your life where you value liberty and opportunity, or safety and security?
Good
Like,
question.
obviously it's both,
Yep.
but at
Yep.
certain stages of your life, it's going to be more liberty,
Yep.
opportunity, and other stages it's going to be safety and security.
Yep.
But it's also important as a business owner, right? I don't want somebody who does liberty and opportunity to be handling my cash.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
But I also don't
Yep.
want somebody, I also
Eh,
don't necessarily want somebody who's about safety and security, trying to guide my patients to stepping out of their comfort zone and moving into a higher state of
Yep.
existence. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so
And it's
even
just
so
knowing
knowing
that
who
that
you
resent.
are,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, knowing who you are helps everybody become more synergistic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So well
once again,
said.
we were saying it earlier, you have to be honest.
Yeah.
Don't manipulate. Don't tell people what you think they want to hear. Don't ever do that. Like that's what sociopaths do. Don't do
Right.
that. Be
Yeah.
honest. Be authentic.
Be
And
honest.
and
Don't
be
be a
willing to say,
sociopath.
"Hey, I was wrong,"
Yeah.
or "I was
Yeah.
mistaken,"
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
"I misjudged." That's fine too.
Yeah. Oops. We make mistakes.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Dr. Ken, thank you so much for all of your insight today, your honesty, your transparency, your genius. I gotta be honest. I really appreciate the way that you see the world, and the way that you have principally and honestly and cathartically lived your life and through your business. And I think everybody here got just a beautiful insight to that, and a bunch of really good lessons. And I thank you so very much for that.
Well, thank you for.
Remember, action is what makes this information all worth it. If you need help figuring out what that action is, go to callwithbrad.com and we'll get some clarity and help you figure out what that should be.